This is Pete Feenstra on Thursday the 19th of September, talking to a great young guitar player from Philadelphia, Mr. Eric Steckel.
Thanks, good to be here, man.
We're here talking on behalf of www.getreadytorock.com. That being the case, we thought we'd interview you, Eric, great guitar player.
Thank you.
You've had an amazing career because you're still a young guy now, and you started at 11.
Yeah, started at 11, my first album.
First album at 11?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I started playing guitar about 8 or 9 years old, and I really just took off with it real quick. You know, it was sort of, it was inside of me, you know, it was instinctual.
Yeah.
And by 10, I got my first paying gig, $100, and played this festival in my hometown. And then in my hometown,
Music Fest?
It wasn't that one, but it was a smaller thing, yeah. But it was sort of this thing that all the people in the town were like, "Hey man, you heard about this kid?" And it was I was in the papers and everything.
Yeah.
And then
guitar prodigy.
That kind of thing. And then by 11, it was my father's idea. He said, "Man," he said, "you know, your live shows, there's a lot of energy there. We should try to capture that." And we had a great production team come in and set up and do the live mobile recording.
Were you under a lot of pressure when you did that?
You know, it was weird. It was like this. It was like, this is the way everybody said to me. They said, "You know what? If it's magic, it's magic. If it isn't, don't worry about it. You're 11 years old. You know, it's like, hey, you got to go out and play in the yard. You know, so and that sort of made me relaxed, and it was a great performance, and it became sort of sort of an infamous record. You know?
How did you get people to actually form a band with you at 11?
What I did was the blues bands that were established in the Philly area.
Yeah.
I would go out with my parents when I was really young, and I would say, "Hey, can I, play maybe a song at the end of the night or whatever?"
Yeah.
And they would sort of get to know me and my family over the years, and then eventually they would say, when I wanted to form a band, they always had some free time. They said, "Yeah, I'll play with Eric," and that's sort of how I got started.
And you kind of built your reputation in and around Philadelphia.
Right, that was where I really got started, and for many years I was just kind of a Philly guy, you know.
Yeah.
And then in the last, probably 6, 7, 8 years is when I went international with it, you know.
So how did you? The next big significant thing in your career was hooking up with John Mayer again.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
That was kind of a crazy story. I got invited to play the Sarasota Blues Festival, which is near Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
And
which is a long way from Philadelphia.
It is, and it was my first time really traveling that distance to a gig. I was only 12 years old.
Wow.
And we got asked to open the festival, play for 1 hour, and open the festival, and really show
what you could do.
Yeah. And what happened was, John, see, I know this because I toured with him. John likes to get to the venue really early, make sure everything's set, and then go back to the hotel. Yeah. So as he's coming in with the bus, I was playing.
Oh, okay.
And that was when Buddy Whittington was in the band, Hank Van Sickle, all those guys. And they heard from behind the stage what was going on, and they kind of got curious. And then when they walked around and saw, a kid this tall, they were like, "What the hell is going on?" You know?
For sure.
And John was standing on the side of the stage like this, just watching, and the whole show. And he normally doesn't do that,
No.
So then we talked after the show. I ended up going on stage with him on his set. And then about a week later, I got an email in my inbox from John Mayall. He said, "I want to take you to Scandinavia for a 2-week tour." Done.
Wow. And you were 14 then?
I was 13.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. I was pinching myself,
So what was your next major record after that?
After that, well, let me think.
Or something that people can look out for out there.
Well, after that point, I did another live album, and this is a funny thing. It's called Live at Havana, and a lot of people in Europe think it's Cuba, but Americans can't go to Cuba. It actually was a club. It was a big club in Philly, based on sort of a Cuban theme, and it had great sound and it had a great environment. So we did a live album there, and what's significant about that album is my cover of Little Wayne.
Yeah.
Because it really got a lot of airplay on the blues channels in the States and over here as well, and it's still next to Empty Promises. It's like my #1 or #2 download on iTunes.
And Empty Promises, of course, is on the new album
called
Dismantle The Sun, which is a great album, particularly the ballads. People are really drawn into that. And that song you just mentioned there is Michael Burke's, of course, the late Michael Burke.
Absolutely.
How did you come? Did you ever see him play live?
Absolutely, and I actually got to know him. Admittedly, not really well, but I got to know him close enough that whenever I'd be in his audience, he'd say, "Hey, you're the guy who's doing Empty Promises."
Yeah.
He knew about it because not many people were doing it, you know, and almost nobody was doing it, really.
And how did you pick up on that song?
I had all of Michael's records, and I was looking for a ballad to do on one of my tours. And I was listening to one of his records in the car, not really paying much attention. I said, man, I could probably do that. But I wanted to do it slower, a little bit different, more, you know, the way I would approach it.
Yeah.
And then in 2010, I started doing it. And then for the last 3 years, it sort of blossomed into my own little...
and the other one on there is called Last Night?
Yeah, that was a song written in the studio.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one.
Which is equally good.
Thank you. Yeah, that song has received a lot of attention as well. It's
it really stands out. You know, you go, that's that song, and everybody goes, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you spend a lot of time writing? I mean, is that something you like doing?
You know,
do you look around for songs?
I'm going to be honest, I actually don't. And some people are going to know what I'm talking about when they see the interview. They're going to say, oh, I'm the same way. And some people are going to say, what is he talking about? But no, if the inspiration isn't there, I don't struggle or fight it. You know, I don't sit there with the pad and the pen and then say, oh, come on, you know, come up with something. I have to let it really flow.
Yeah.
So the best songs on the last album, songs like Mississippi River, Last Night, some of the songs that people really like were written in the studio.
Wow.
Because
so you put yourself under pressure.
I work really well under pressure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big ask.
It is, yeah.
And we've just got something trying to break in the dressing room here. We'll carry on anyway.
Yeah.
So the album's called Dismantle The Sun. Can people get it over here or just on the road? Or
Absolutely. Well, we have it for sale at all of our shows, in all different currencies and stuff, but also on all the major internet things: iTunes, Amazon, Rhapsody, Spot, everything. You know, CD Baby, all that stuff. So
question that everybody asked me to ask you is, who are your influences, particularly as a guitar player?
Yeah, well, I have my early influences and I sort of have my current influences. My early influences were the traditional, everybody, you know, Stevie, Gary Moore, Hendrix, Clapton, John Mayall, even, you know, not as a guitarist, but just as a band leader. But recently, man, I'm trying to really broaden my horizons, and I listen to an English band called Porcupine Tree.
Oh, which is proggy.
Yeah, right, I listen to them a lot. There's also a British guitarist, Guthrie Govan.
More
into the shred thing, but very tasty.
Incredible technician.
Absolutely.
So do you ever bring any of that prog kind of feeling to any of your stuff?
I try to, you know, I do it. You know, I'll never be Stephen Wilson, the front man of Porcupine Tree. I'll never think like he does or write like he does. But my goal is to just pull a little bit of what he does and just put all my influences in the pot, you know, and sort of stir it up and create my own recipe, you know.
Well, it seems to be working. It's a great album. It's called Dismantle The Sun. I think the songs are so strong, the guitar tone is immense.
Thank you,
And you sound very relaxed to say you're in the studio and under pressure.
Yeah, well, you know what it is on this album. One of the things, honestly, that I really did on this album was I didn't put my emphasis on the guitar work because
song based album.
you know, because you know what it is. It's like, and this is what my father actually told me. He said, Eric, he said, at this point, people know you can play guitar. He said, that's not, you know, he said, focus on, because I play piano and organ.
I was going to ask you about that too.
And my vocals are better, you know, and my songwriting is better. So I focus on the other things, you know. And I mean, the tone is there, you know, it's nice and powerful. But it's not, the album isn't about speed and licks and that kind of stuff.
There's some nice licks on there, but it is a song-based album.
But it's more relaxed.
Very mature.
Yeah, exactly. So I really tried to not worry too much about impressing people with the guitar. Only that. You know?
Well, I'm sure you're going to impress a whole bunch of people tonight. It's been Pete Fins to talk to Eric Steckel for GetReadyToRock.com. The album, one more time, is called Dismantle The Sun. What's the website that people can check?
EricSteckel.com.
Okay. It's been Pete over here, Eric over there, Jeff on the camera. Thank you and good evening.
Yeah, cheers.